You're very welcome to this morning's information webinar about our short course in collaboration with the AI Institute called AI for Financial Advisors and Planners. My name is Denise McLaughlin and I work as part of the team here in LIA, and we're delighted to be collaborating with the AI Institute. For those who might not be familiar with the AI Institute, they are the UK and Ireland's leading independent AI skills provider. AI is becoming an essential part of our everyday lives, and it's crucial that we leverage it to enhance our work. I suppose what makes this course unique is that it's specifically designed for financial advisors and planners, so it ensures that professionals in these roles can fully harness the power of AI tools and systems available to them. This is our third offering as well for the course. We were really overwhelmed with the feedback that we got in terms of the content and I suppose how practical it was. And as I mentioned there, it has been tailored for financial advisors and planners, which makes it really relevant and practical in your day-to-day work. Just in terms then of registrations, so our next intake is now open for registrations, and the course is going to kick off on the 1st of July. Based on the feedback that we got, we have given people the option to sign up for Tuesday mornings or Thursday morning lectures. And then the course itself will be delivered online over 4 lectures, and each lecture is 2.5 hours each. If you do have any questions during the webinar, please use the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen, and we'll answer these questions at the end. So I'm now delighted to introduce our speaker, Mary-Rose Lyons, who is the founder of the AI Institute. She specializes in demystifying AI for professionals, making it practical, ethical, and easy to implement. And with a background in digital marketing and a master's in cyber psychology, Mary-Rose has spent over 2 decades at the forefront of technology trends. So I'll just hand you over to Mary-Rose now, and I'm sure you'll be able to tell the audience a little bit more about yourself, Mary-Rose. Thanks.
Thank you, Denise. Thanks so much. Hi, everybody. I'm not going to tell anything more about myself. If you want to find out more about me, you could just Google me or Perplexity me, and it's all online. What I'd like to spend the time doing today is I want to kind of show you around some of the kind of cool things that are happening within the generative AI space right now. So I've built this as 0 to hero in 4 summertime sessions, and I'll be talking a little bit about what exactly we'll be covering in the course. The interesting thing is, I was saying to Denise earlier on, is that that course that she referred to, which we ran in February for the LIA, we were looking at the material and we are changing, I'd say about 80% of it, because just since February, so many things have happened in the space and we've evolved things so much that it's just constantly changing. So one thing you can be 120% guaranteed of when you're getting a course from the AI Institute, because it's all live and it's instructor led, what you're going to learn is the latest things that you want to know. And we only train out on actual things you can use, things that are really relevant to include in your workflow. So what I wanted to do this morning was thank you all for coming. First of all, thank you very much. What I wanted to do was I wanted to give you a little bit of an update on, I suppose, where we are in the whole roadmap of things. Then I'm going to take you through just what we're going to cover in the July sessions. And then I'm going to show a couple of little things that you could be doing right now as soon as the session is over to help you in your day. So with that in mind, post your questions in the chat and we'll answer all your questions at the end. So let's begin. So just to start off with this image I created of in Midjourney of Chris Martin's not so good looking brother. So basically this guy here is to denote the fact that I really want to urge you to stop thinking of the generative AI tools. They're no longer tools, and I will explain the reason for that in just one moment. So yes, at the beginning, they were tools. They were tools that we came along and we put in a prompt and we had to really structure our prompts correctly to get the answers out right and all of this kind of stuff. And then we got some great answers and we were delighted with ourselves. Well, things have come on since then. And now I would like you to regard your use of generative AI as being your assistants. So the sooner we all start thinking of ourselves as the CEO of our own role, and I have my own role, and then I have like multiple virtual assistants set up to help me do my job. So likewise, Chris Martin's not so good looking brother here, he has his own role, and then he's got about 5 different assistants set up to help him to perform his role better. And that is what we are going to get you set up to be like before the August bank holiday. So we're coming into a bank holiday weekend now. Just think that squeezed in between the two summer bank holidays, you can become the master and the CEO of your own role. That's the promise. Now, what actually allows this to happen? Well, it's the evolution of reasoning models. And this is where it all got extremely exciting. So this is just a kind of a very busy graph. Okay, now I can't help the busyness because there's just quite a lot of things happening in this space. But if you look back, say, to like 2023, 24, okay, 2023, we had ChatGPT 4.0 come out and we were all delighted with ourselves. Oh, it's so different. Oh, it's such an improvement on ChatGPT 3.5. And the big exciting thing with 4.0 was that it was multimodal. So in other words, you could upload images, you could upload files, text, video, all sorts of things, and the model would take it in and absorb it and give you some great answers. Now, last year, 2024, some stuff started happening. So round about September, ChatGPT came out with this thing called O1 Preview, and it was the first look at these new reasoning models. And the reasoning models, at first when they came out, people were like, oh, it's very good for logic and code and coding. But actually, they're so powerful the way they operate. And the way they operate is slightly different to the non-reasoning models. So anyone who's taken a course with us, you will know we use Ryan Gosling to share this piece of information. But really what we do is we explain how the non-reasoning models work. So in other words, the non-reasoning models are trained on a lot of data. And then when you come along and you put a prompt in a window, you're going to basically, your prompt is going to go off into the model. And then literally what they're doing is they're looking at kind of word placement beside each other. And then it does a very good job at selecting what words or tokens get placed beside each other in your answer. And then it pops that back to you. The way the reasoning models are different is that you put your prompt into the window, and the reasoning model actually understands and will iterate its answer to you based on the answers it's coming up with. So it's an actual thinking model. It's got much more brain power going on. So first look at these came last September. DeepSeek, the Chinese company, they gave us a first look at R1 last October. That forced ChatGPT to rush out O1 in their O1 in December, which they did. And then we had a lot of action at the start of this year with the launch of DeepSeek's R1 at the end of January. The thing they did that changed everything is that they launched R1, but they launched it as open source. So ChatGPT had been planning on charging, I think, about $200 for access to the reasoning models. But because the Chinese came out and said, here is our reasoning model, you can have it for free on open source, that changed everything. And what it did is it made the reasoning models available to us, sometimes in free packages, but mostly in the likes of ChatGPT Plus, the $20 version that we're paying. So since February of this year, you are doing yourself a disservice if you're not jumping around within the model that you're using to select reasoning in certain cases. So let me just hop over here to my ChatGPT window. I hope you can all see that. In the top left-hand corner, it's usually it defaults to ChatGPT 4.0. So this is the default prompt window where you want to ask it a question, a basic get the answer out, a quick help me with my job question. But when you want the model to really think and you really want some extra power, you need to be hopping into something like O3 or O4 Mini High. So that's the first thing I would suggest you. If you are on a paid version, which I sincerely hope you are, of ChatGPT, for example, you can jump between the different models and you should be doing that right now. In the Perplexity, for example, here's Perplexity. It's the same thing again. You have an option to jump around into different models. So you have reasoning models and you've non-reasoning models. Okay, so that was the first thing that I wanted to mention, is that the reasoning models are changing everything. Now, we just had a very exciting week last week. We had Gemini 2.5 come from Google in April, and then last week, Claude dropped Claude 4. And I can tell you, I spent the whole weekend using it, and it is amazing. You practically don't even have to prompt anymore. It's literally just conversation with the most intelligent model yet. The great exciting thing about Claude 4 is that it is a combination of reasoning with the ability to go off and search the web. Okay, so I don't want to be bogging you down too much with all of this. My point is that the reasoning models are very much on the plan of where we're going. So I thought, because we're all at very different levels, okay, I didn't know whether you listening would be brand new to the whole world of using these these models, or whether you've been kind of dabbling for quite a while, whether you have some things set up. So I didn't know how to pitch it. But what I thought would be interesting for all of us would be to understand where this is all going. So this is the OpenAI roadmap for evolution of AI. So it's largely the kind of frontier labs are following this kind of trajectory. It's been shared for quite a while, and I wanted to point out where we are on things. So at the very beginning, when we got, the early models, ChatGPT 3.5 and Claude and Gemini and so on, that was the chatbot level. So we were all delighted. You can come in and go, help me writing a blog post, etc. And that was great. The reasoning models was the next step up. That's what I've just been talking about. The next level are the agents. Agents is where 2025 is at. So the reasoning models power the agents, because what an agent can do is it's where you can set your AI a task and it can act autonomously. You don't have to stand over it and prompt it and say, first do this, now do that, because then you're being the controller, you're getting the answers out, but you're having to stand over it. An agent is where you can give it a task and you can leave the AI to go and do its thing for you. So you can get up and have a cup of coffee, or have a meeting with the client, or do some deep learning of your own, or do something that us humans do really, really well while your agent is doing your work. I hope you can understand now that, the agents, they wouldn't be possible without the reasoning models. So the reasoning models, they can think. So that's where we are at the moment, and it's very exciting. Now, looking up and ahead, where we're going to go to, well, AGI is artificial intelligence, which has human level intelligence. Okay, so this is basically a kind of a lot of the frontier labs are kind of racing to try and get to this space, because they feel that whoever gets to AGI first is going to win the battle of our minds. I don't know if that's the case. It's going to be soon. Nobody knows when. The likes of Dario Amodei, who is the CEO of Anthropic, which makes Claude, he reckons it's going to be in around 2027. But as you can see, we went from like 2022, 2024, we're here now, 2025. It'll be 2026, 27. The next step after that is where it's called artificial super intelligence. And this is where the AI surpasses human intelligence, where the AI is smarter than all of us. And that is coming. Nobody knows when. We just have to be ready for it. Okay. So what I wanted to show you is where we are now. And when we train out in our courses, we train out to the level of where we're at now. There's no point in just signing up to do a course that's a pre-recorded piece that's going to be training you out on something from 6 months ago, because 6 months ago is already out of date. Now, when we're thinking about the bigger models, AGI, ASI, there is naturally enough a lot of fear out there about where it's all going and what it's going to do. But me, I am a tech optimist, and I prefer to think about the problems, the bigger problems that are going to be solved. Now, already we are seeing AI solving huge problems. So, for example, we have a podcast and it's called Chatting GPT. Go and find it on all the places you listen to your podcasts. And one of the guests that we had on in the last season was a really interesting guy called Doyen Badmosi. So his business is that they have created an AI that identifies 4 of the major types of cancer that are most common in Ireland, by plugging into the documents record system that our GPs use. So already we're seeing AI for good. So we're seeing earlier detection of cancer. And in a country like Ireland, where, let's face it, I think 1 in 2 of us are likely to have a cancer diagnosis in our lives, which when I found that stat out, it was rather shocking. But, already we're using the AI to solve those kind of problems. And if you want to explore more, there's some really interesting stuff that's going on around the authorities are using AI. They're using the AI to spot trends to break up human trafficking rings. They're using AI to basically break up human trafficking. So there is an awful lot of really good stuff going on. And when we get to this stage of AGI and ASI, if we do this in a kind of a mindful way of progress, it shouldn't be the gloom and doom dystopian future that Hollywood likes to make movies about, or that oftentimes journalists like to write an article about, because it's much easier to write an article about something scary than to write something about the people who embraced it early and then put themselves onto a 2-day week, and look at them, their golf handicap has got so good and they sail every weekend. That's a possible future. So let us look instead at the impact that this AI has on us, the workers. Okay, so before we get to that 1 or 2 day week, or as my friend Lolly Mancy talks about, it's not all us playing violins, but before we get to that stage of where we're all playing the violins, I'd like you to have a look at this. Now, I can't look at this chart without thinking of The Simpsons. Stop for a moment, think about The Simpsons. And what this is showing you is some research that was done in the States by Harvard and Wharton School. So what they did was they carried out some research on 776 Procter & Gamble workers, and there were a mix of technical and commercial roles. So it wasn't just all kind of the marketeers, for example. And some of them were given AI to use, and some of them were not given AI to use. And this is a graph that shows the result of the study. And the study was done at the end of 2024. So an individual who is not using AI is this level here. Look at the difference between an individual not using AI and an individual with AI. So it's actually the quality of their output as well as the quantity of their output is more than, it's almost like 3 times as large. Now, the jump from teams isn't as large, but as you can see, a team that's been trained up and is using AI in their work is creating much better quality and quantity output than a team who is not. Now, this I think is very interesting. The top 10% of quality. So in this study, the highest level of quality output, they did a lot of research into this, and they discovered that teams that have been empowered to use AI are much more likely to appear in this highest decile. An individual working away as before, not using AI, they are much less likely to appear in this highest decile. So the question I think you're probably asking is, okay, we've got a team. How do I get from here to here? Okay, we might be a team not using AI, or, what I think what puts the fear of God into me is when you have shadow use of AI, which is like, I think some of the guys are using AI, but we don't really know what for. Because then you're thinking about things like, your data, is your data leaking out into the models? Because that's a very, very real thing we need to think about. And it's something that we really rigorously train out on in the course, which is about redacting any kind of confidential information and putting a kind of a system in place as to whether this can be shared, and if it is going to be shared, how and where and what model and what feature. So by the time you're getting your data out onto the AI, when you're doing things with us, you've gone through this kind of rigorous set of questions to ask yourself before you put it out there. And that's really important. So to answer your question of how do we get from here to there, I wanted to just mention the course that's starting in July. One thing I wanted to mention in particular that Denise didn't say, and I'm actually going to say it in a naggy way, is that if you make the time to do the course, okay, so we have 4 sessions, you can choose your Tuesdays or your Thursdays. The other thing that we highly recommend is that if you can make 2 half-hour sessions in your diary, between the modules. And those 2 half-hour sessions are for you to put into practice what you've learned. Because what I see often and time again is that people come into module 1, they're learning, they're like, wow, this is brilliant. Obviously, it's all hands on keyboard because that's the way we roll at the AI Institute. They're learning, they're thinking, this is great. I'm going to go out into the world. I'm going to put it into practice in my work. And then boom, work happens. And then before you know it, you're back. It's week 2. We're moving on to the next module. So I really advocate if you can try and get those 2 little half-hour slots in your diary to just practice what you're learning. It's going to make the information stick, because what you'll find with this is it's not that it's particularly difficult. It's actually about remembering to use it and then approaching your work in a slightly different way. So you're briefing an AI on what it is you want to do instead of going straight in gangbusters, open up my spreadsheet and work away. So that's what I wanted to point out. So just really quickly to go through what we cover. We start off assuming zero knowledge. Okay, so we come in and we're going through the various different models. We emphasize, which ones are great for what. We do an awful lot in the first session on your legal, regulatory and ethical requirements and guidelines for making sure you're staying on the right side of both the moral and the legal law. We look at different prompt structures. So we've kind of evolved from the kind of, fully kind of having to do chain of thought prompting. But what we do show you is the difference between, say, a reasoning model prompt, which is different in structure and style, to a non-reasoning model prompt. So that's where we start off. If you're already using ChatGPT, you will get takeaways from this. And if you're brand new, you'll find this really exciting and it'll get you up to speed with everyone else. So from there, we move into the second week, which is all around research and content creation. And where we've made this one really different to the previous cohorts that we did for you is that we're showing you how to set up your own knowledge bases for marketing planning and content creation. So what does this mean? Well, we are giving you a super prompt and we're going to guide you through the right location to put this information in. You are going to feed this with your own examples of what you deem to be good quality or good quality marketing, good quality output. And then you're going to save these. And at the end of this session, you will have built out 2 of your own virtual assistants. So it's a kind of step in the direction of agents. So in other words, how these work is that if you're coming back and it's like, let's say it's after August and you're coming back a bit shell-shocked after the long hot summer that we've had, 2025, I told you I'm a tech utopian. I'm also a weather utopian as well. So basically what we do is you'll come back in and you'll sit down and you'll say, right, what do we want to talk about in September? And you'll go to your marketing planner and you'll give it a few top of mind ideas. And your marketing planner will kick into gear and will give you a marketing plan for the whole month of September based on what you've already told it you like. Then you'll go over to your content creator and you'll say, here's my marketing plan for September. You might have tweaked it a little bit. You'll drop this into the content creator and it is going to create the actual post for you. The only thing you have to do is copy and paste and schedule. Okay, so it's a big promise. Okay, it's very easily done. You definitely don't want to be missing lecture 2. Second thing I want to point out is we'll be having a look at deep research tools, and I'm going to show you a deep research tool after this. They're super cool. Week 3, another one you don't want to miss. This is the data analysis module. I love delivering the data analysis to the LIA people because literally you see people's eyes lighting up and their heads are moving, because we always ask people to have video turned on during the training so that we can see what you're doing and we can support you while you're doing it. And watching people's heads go, and then they sit back and then they just come in and go, I just got it to do blah, 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 blah. And I've just made a visual. And I encourage people to share the visuals. The visuals come from the data insights from your data. And you cannot create a visual until you've got the insights. And then you can tell stories of your data. So I encourage people to share the visuals in the chat. And literally within about 20 minutes, we see this like stream of amazing visuals coming our way. So what you'll be learning is safe use of your data. And we have a kind of a proven method that we take people through in terms of like cleaning down your data, preparing the data, and then analyzing the data and getting the kind of amazing results out of it. So the data piece, another one you don't want to miss. Finally, we've got the last session, which is the virtual assistants and agents for everything one. And this is where, instead of just sort of taking topics like sales or HR as a kind of a topic in itself, we're looking at it from the point of view of the virtual assistants that we showed you how to do in module 2. Well, they just happen to be for marketing. So now we're going to help you with creating more virtual assistants for sales prospecting, for fact finds, for dealing with risk assessments. So these are the ones that I know you're all going to want, because they're the ones that people loved receiving from us when we did the February cohort. But what I would suggest to you is to start thinking now about the kind of virtual assistants you want to build out, so that, again, I want to leave you in a position at the end of this course where you're like Chris Martin's not so good looking brother, where it's you, but you have a whole lot of assistants built out, and all you have to do is remember to go to them, to use them. So that's what we're covering from week to week. 3 things I want to show you right now that you ought to think about are, number one, it never ceases to amaze me how many professionals are still using a free model. Okay, so if you're only using a free model, either a ChatGPT one, or Gemini, or Claude, or free Copilot, or any of these, I strongly urge you to take out your credit card, pick one, and spend the $20. The difference is just like going from to oh yes, because the amount of data you can upload, the amount of the quality of the results, the features, the access to the different models. I don't think you can get access to all of the reasoning models on the free versions. So really, if there's one thing you do, you're here today watching this webinar. So I know that you're interested in AI. So do yourself a favor and give yourself the experience of having at least one paid tool in your arsenal. That's the first thing. Second thing is, I want you to go and have a play with deep research. Okay, so I'm going to show you how this works right now. Deep research is, I'm quite excited about it because it's kind of like the first glimpse of the agentic future that is on our doorsteps. That's pretty much going to be how we're all working by the end of 2025. And basically, how it came about was ChatGPT created this deep research tool, and they were going to make it available for like $200. And then Perplexity brought out their version of deep research, and they made theirs available for free. And then Google brought out their version, which they wrapped into Gemini, which is also available for free. I think we're on the paid version of Gemini. But basically, what deep research does is it enables you to put a prompt in, and then the tool, or the model, sorry, I shouldn't say tool, the model will go off and will research up to 40 different sources for you. And it'll change its research sources that it's looking at based on the information that it's ingesting as it's coming back. So it's a very dynamic kind of a thing. So if you think about yourself, if you needed to sit down, for example, and find out what's our view on whether the Japanese government are going to be selling off all of their US government bonds, which I believe is quite hot news for this today and the week that's in it. For you to find that information now, you might have been relying on maybe emails that you would receive, say, from some of the brokers, some of the pension fund providers. So you're getting their view on it. You might go onto Google, break your way past all of the cookies and break your way past all of the ads and look up different searches and look up different sites and kind of like formulate your answer based on that. But what I'm going to show you right now is just the Perplexity one, which basically enables you to get an answer from 40 different sources, expert sources, and a really good quality answer in seconds. So I'm going to hop over into Perplexity. Hope you can all see my Perplexity just now. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go into the old, here's one I prepared earlier. So here's what I did. I said, the goal is I wanted to produce a report with key insights into the relative movements of Japanese and US 10-year bonds. And then you give it an output. The output is to give a macroeconomic view on the Japanese government's recent activity and signals. I want the potential of this on Trump's ability to deliver on his tariff objectives, and give me the impact of this on the Irish economy. Background is it's a market report being sent to pension fund clients aged 55 to 60 based in Ireland. Boom, press that button. Now, before I show you the result, I'm going to go over into ChatGPT, and I'm in the advanced model. I've clicked on here to select run deep research, and I'm going to run the same, exactly the same prompt. Boom. And it's going to do its thing. Now, ChatGPT always comes back and asks a couple of questions. Yeah, it always does. So what is the time range? Literally this month. Should we include forecasts or just forecasts, please? I still use please, and I use thank you. You're not going to knock that out of me because I'm Irish. That's what we do. Do you want the report to include charts or tables for clarity? Yes, lots. Should the macroeconomic view focus solely on bond-related policy or broader economic signals? Both, because I didn't know the answer. Should the impact in Ireland be mainly trade, investment, or pension fund? We'll say pension fund returns. Now that's going to go off and do its thing. Great. So it's going to do a report. Watch this. So this is chat. It's confirming back to me what it's going to do. So it's now starting its research. It is going off on its own, deciding where to research based on the kind of answers it's getting and checking them off against the brief. It's going to change its sources. It's going to change its approach. It has the autonomy to do this. It is working autonomously for me. Now, rather than all of us sitting staring at a screen, let us go back to the one I prepared earlier. So this one here is Perplexity, and it went off and it researched 40 different sources for me, and it produced this beautiful paper. Okay, Japanese and US. So current bond market dynamics and yield movements. The Japanese government bond market is under pressure. It's experienced unprecedented turbulence with yields reaching levels not observed in decades. Is going to give me this. Look, all of this answer. Trump administration, trade policy. It's answering exactly what I asked for. Escalating tariff implementation, the impact on Japanese economic strategy, implications for our economy, strategic response, conclusion. Nice. I could go deeper with this. Okay. Let me just hop over back here, and you can see that ChatGPT is still doing the work. So because you're getting such a powerful answer with this, it can often take up to 15 minutes, maybe I've seen it like 17 minutes sometimes to produce a report. So what do you do then? Well, what we strongly advocate at the AI Institute is that any of the time that you save from not having to do the drudge work of opening things and copying and pasting, that you use that time more mindfully. So you either get up from your desk and go and have a coffee and chat to a person and build a human relationship, which is what I cannot do, or you save up all these blocks of time and then you block it off in your own diary, and then you use this for some deep learning, like doing your homework for the AI course that you're going to do at the LIA. Okay, so really it's important to be mindful about using the time we save in a really meaningful way. So as you can see here, I hope you can see this here. Look, they're analyzing the historical data of the US. I'm thinking about how US 10-year yields have fluctuated. It's a bit like examining. So they're doing all of this kind of stuff, showing you your sources. So you can actually go back and you can tell it sources that you don't want to use, for example. So while it's doing that, we can go back here and move on to the third thing I want you to think about. So the first thing I want you to think about is maybe it's time to pay for a AI. Second thing is, once we've done that, let's use deep research. You can use it in chat, you can use it in Gemini, you can use it in Perplexity. And now, even since last week, when Claude 4 came out, Claude 4 is deep research and internet access all built into one. So it's a wonderful time to be alive. What I advocate is run a report that's really important in the three of these, and then bring them all over into Claude and get Claude to critique it and create one super report. That's the one you're going to send to your clients. The third thing I would love you to do is think about the tasks that you no longer want to do. So I really want to just set this thought in your mind. Whether you're going to take the course in July, whether you've already taken a course with us, whether you're thinking, I might leave it until late autumn to do, which I strongly don't recommend because you're going to be tired at the end of the year. And if you don't take the course in July, like in July, you're literally going to be starting to do this stuff in July, August, September. If you wait until October, November, you're not going to be really bringing AI into your business properly till the end of 2025. And that is a disadvantage for you. And I'm not saying that in a salesy way, it is a disadvantage for you. So what I want you to think about is the tasks that you no longer want to do. So for example, when you're doing client reporting, there's a lot of, manual updating, getting CRMs to speak to Excels and so on. So thinking about this kind of stuff, we can move to AI, to bring AI into it, or to actually automate some of it. You can streamline an awful lot of the onboarding. So as I said, we will be showing you how to do a lot of the kind of the letters, risk assessments, fact finds, that kind of stuff doesn't have to be done on a case by case basis anymore. You can actually just spend your time having the meetings with the clients, whether that's online or in person, and do a data dump, either a transcript from the meeting or just your notes uploaded, and then you can get AI to do the rest. And then your job is to check the output and add your own sense, your own little bit of finessing. As I've shown you, research does no longer have to be a thing that takes you hours and hours on a Monday morning. Quick, there's something happening in the Japanese bond market. There goes Monday morning. No, it's actually something that's going to take you 15, 20 minutes, and you're going to get a better quality output, in fairness, than if you sat down and did a kind of a cobble together of different sources. Finally, the other thing to think about is enhancing your client conversations. Using things like note takers on calls with permission from your clients, for example, is a really good way that you can actually focus on the client, on the person, watch their movements, listen to what they're saying properly, and not be worrying about trying to write everything down. Now, before we move on, let me just go back and see how chat is getting on. Oh, it's still working away here. Okay, it's going to be some report. So, AI for financial advisors and planners, the third edition. It starts on the 1st of July. That's the Tuesday one. Or you could join us on the Thursday one. I really hope that I've given you a good sense of what we're going to cover, why you need to do this now, and a good flavour of what it feels like to learn from us. Just so you know, you have the courses are delivered live because we're learning as a group, and there's a lot of really good sharing in the group sessions. So you're going to have live online learning, and then you're going to get a recording so you can play it back yourself to go back over it yourself. You get workbooks, you get prompts, and literally, if you make those literally just 2 half-hour sessions in your week to practice it, it's going to become natural. So Professor Ethan Molick is this really, really interesting professor from the Wharton School. And he does an awful lot of the road testing of the new models as they come. And he says that you need to have 10 hours experience working with a model in order to really fully get it. So my wish for you is that you invest time this July when everyone else is doing nothing. You invest time this July to go deep on AI and bringing it into your business and move from being a dabbler at ChatGPT into being a super powerful and confident user. So that's all I had for you today. I'm going to just stop sharing my screen and see, does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, thanks so much, Mary Rose. That was brilliant. And there was loads of information there for everybody. And it's incredible, I suppose, to see what's out there and what's available. Because I know it can be overwhelming if people don't know where to start. So it's great that this course will be looking at some of the key AI tools that are available. So
Yes.
yeah, just having a look now through some of the questions. Somebody has asked, how secure are each of the AI platforms and which ones would you recommend paying for?
Great, great, great question. So, the thing is, when you're paying for the various different models, you have the ability to turn off data tracking. So that means that they're not taking your data and feeding it into their models. There's no risk that your stuff can appear in someone else's answer on the other side of the world. However, We take a very, very risk averse approach to dealing with these models. So, while the data tracking can be turned off, there's nothing that basically says, well, what if, let's say, OpenAI got hacked and all of the information that was being used got out? And that is why we always recommend that you have a kind of a traffic light system before you put any information up. And if you're putting any information up, you can redact. It's amazing how quickly you can redact information that might make that trackable back to you. So we do this with financial companies, we do it with engineering companies, we do it with QS companies. Once you redact the key information, spreadsheets turn into just being a pile of numbers. So the pile of numbers, you know what they're about. AI can drive amazing insights for you to help you bring that data to life. But if that file got out of Claude or it got hacked and it got off to the dark web, worst fear ever, that information is not going to be traced back to you. So that is my answer to the question. If you if you want to be absolutely sure about your information, you could use Microsoft's Copilot. The secret sauce, or the secret kind of USP of Copilot, is that when you're using Copilot, none of your information is leaving Copilot. So it means that you can safely use Copilot for all of your company information, and that's great. So the answer is that if that level of confidentiality is for you, you're going to want to use Copilot. But mostly people will use Copilot along with another model, because Copilot is great at allowing you to do data analysis on your own company data, but it's not so great at some of the kind of creative sparring, some of the kind of the content writing, the kind of the deep research that I showed you. So Copilot plus one other would be my answer to that one. Which one would I recommend? Well, what's kind of emerging is that Microsoft Copilot is kind of winning on the enterprise level, but Google's Gemini, which is actually currently the best model in the whole wide world ever since 2 weeks ago, that is kind of winning on the small business level, because in the same way as Copilot connects with your files, if you're a Microsoft house, Gemini connects with your files safely and securely if you're a Google house. So if you use Google, you can use Gemini safely and securely in the same way as I described with Copilot. And then ChatGPT is kind of winning like consumer mind and everybody else. And then Claude is kind of winning for thinking people. And Perplexity is winning for everyone else. So I hope that answers your question.
Great, great, thank you. And when you mentioned Claude, there's someone just asked, if we download Claude, for example, can this be shared between iPad, phone, and their MacBook as well, or will they need three Claudes?
No, 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 you don't need three clouds. No, no. So basically, there's an app. Like all of the models have an app. So your app for your phone, and when you're using it on your phone, you'd be using it a lot at the weekend, or you might be watching telly and you're doing it. And then when you come into your MacBook in the morning, or you're on a desktop and you open up Claude, all of your prompts that you did at the weekend on your phone, they're all sitting there in your prompt history. So you can use them interchangeably. That's not a problem.
Yeah, great. Someone's asked just what the course cost is. So it is €600 for LAA members and €700 for non-LAA members.
The
Um,
best 600 or 700 euro you're ever going to spend this summer, let me tell
exactly.
you.
Definitely. And another question there, someone said our organization is very reluctant and has not rolled out AI to the entire workforce, only on a pilot basis. Is this typical? I feel this is very short-sighted.
Oh, I feel your pain. Well, okay, there are different reasons for this. Okay, so um, there are people whose job it is to protect the data, and they would be very wary about rolling out AI just to everyone at willy-nilly. We work with a lot of larger organizations, and the approach that they tend to take is that we kind of come in and we train groups, cohort by cohort, and the initial groups would be made up of a number of different departments. So the idea is that it's to kind of get a sense of which departments are mature enough to use it well and get the best value from it. And then um, that then informs which departments get it next. Okay, so kind of cohort by cohort basis is one way they might be doing it in your organization. But the second reason for it is because these tools if you have a team of 300 people, it is kind of expensive. For example, I think Copilot is now 30. It's included in your Microsoft Office package, but it's about $30 a month. So $30 a month by 300 is a significant chunk of change. Even $20 a month by 100 people is a significant chunk of change. And what we always do when we're working with larger organizations is, instead of just like rolling all the tools out to all the people, and then not everyone is going to adapt them, it's better to bring it in on a kind of a cohort by cohort basis, so that you have a small group of people. They're trained up on what to use. They're given access to maybe one or two tools. And then at the end of the training, they can say which one they preferred. And then that way we report back usually to the heads of IT or the CIO as to which models are proving the most popular. So what you can do is, you can be in a situation where you say, okay, well, our marketing team love Claude. Everyone else uses ChatGPT, so they're the ones we're going to pay for. So it's kind of like, it's testing, it's trial and error. I know it's incredibly frustrating if you're in an organization and you want to use these tools, but just go to your IT person, tell them you want to use the tools, because a lot of the time it's like, he who asks gets.
Yeah, brilliant. And then there's just a few questions around kind of protecting client data, and someone's asked, which note-taking tools do you recommend considering security of sensitive client data?
Well, so there's lots of note-taking tools out there, and we cover them all in the first session. It depends on what your kind of use case and your needs are. So, like, for example, you're going to use a different note-taking tool if you've got several people reporting into you, because one of the tools, TLDV, it's called, that has a really good functionality whereby you can coach people and you can get amazing reports, so that you finally don't have to sit in or be CC'd in on every single meeting that your team is taking part in. So that'd be one particular use case. But then if you're doing a lot of in-person meetings as well as online meetings, you'll use a different note-taking tool. So what we do is, we advocate in the very first week, we get you all up using one, and then we come back and you share how you found it, what your experience was. And then halfway through, we'll get you using a second one. So the idea is that by the end of the 4 weeks, you have tried two note-taking tools. You know which one works best for you, and that's the one you're going to use. Secondly, when we're doing note-taking, we do a big piece on the etiquette of using note takers, because it's very important that you alert people that you're using note-taking tools, and you kind of like just change your way in meetings, just to make sure to make it easy on the note taker to pick up voices and to pick up decisions that have been made.
Great, great. Well, I think that covers all the kind of questions there for today. And just to reiterate that registrations for this course are currently open. So you can register now on the LIA website, and we'll also be sending you an email afterwards with further details on that. Or if you'd like more information or any help on registering, please email education@lia.ie. And yeah, we'll just wrap up there, I suppose. So I'd just like to thank everybody again for joining us this morning. I hope you got some good insights there from the webinar. And thanks a million there to yourself, Mary Rose, for a really informative session. It was really, really great. And we will be contacting everybody with a copy of the recording after this as well. So just keep an eye on your emails there. And if you did have any other questions or anything, please do feel free to reach out to us. And yeah, I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much. Thanks for attending. Have a great week ahead, everyone, and see you in July. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.